Hello everybody and welcome to the My Barcode Life podcast. My name is Rod Bolt. I'm the Barcode Channel Manager at Toshiba. We're talking everything barcode, and today we're talking everything about labels. My guest today is David Webb from GK Labels.
Hi everyone, and looking forward to the chat.
Thank you. David, we've known each other for quite some time.
More than
we like to admit. Yes, I was my parents' barcode company before I worked at Toshiba, and I was pre 18 even working myself. And tell me a little bit about yourself. What is your background and your role at GK?
So I was first involved at GK back in 1988. Was studying a science degree at university, and basically it wasn't really my thing. So somebody gave me an opportunity, and I got involved here at GK Labels. The company was originally a print management business. When we first took it over, it was basically employing one person, so I got involved to pick up the reins and run with it. After about probably 12 months, we talked about where we could take the business and decided manufacturing was the way to go. So in 1990 we did a bit of research and looked at purchasing our first label printing press. That was installed in late 1991, and so we went from the little semi-rotary letterpress machine. We now run a couple of high-speed flexo presses, employing about a dozen people.
Excellent. So definitely growth in you've seen the company grow over that time. So you've got a fairly deep history in labels and know a fair bit on the subject. So this is the perfect person to ask these questions to. So
I'll try to answer what I can.
Yeah. So look, a lot of people ask me on when they go and purchase a label printer, what is the benefit, and thermal direct, thermal transfer. We talk about there's three main types of paper that we mainly work with, or substrates that we mainly work with, which is thermal direct paper, thermal transfer paper, and then synthetic polypropylene. Yes, there's other stuff out there we can print on care material and all that sort of stuff, but we're primarily, I want to focus on thermal direct, thermal transfer, and synthetic.
Yep.
And what are so if we go down the first path of thermal direct, what's the main advantages that you see out there for thermal direct?
Thermal direct probably is largely convenience, tends to be for labels that don't necessarily need a long shelf life. Once they're printed, they go on a product, and it's only a short-term sort of solution.
Yep.
I guess the first question that we always ask clients is, what do they need out of the label? Short-term, medium-term, long-term. What's it being stuck onto? We can then decide from that whether a paper substrate's good enough, or whether we've got to look at a synthetic. If it's got to be a much longer-term prospect, we go down the path of synthetic. Obviously, that's where the it comes down to cost. Thermal direct, as I say, is a real convenience thing. So for a lot of shipping labels, for pallets and cartons and things like that, where you might need it to last, a matter of weeks.
Yes.
We have also, economy grades. We then go into top coated grades, which give greater durability, and will obviously last a little bit longer. Probably the next step, as you mentioned, is thermal transfer paper, and the idea of that is the image is transferred via the ribbon, and it makes it a much more durable and hardy sort of solution to people's need. Again, if it's got to last maybe months, that's a good outcome.
Yes,
it can obviously last even substantially longer than that. Cost-wise, there's not a great deal of difference between the thermal direct materials and thermal transfer, even once you take the ribbon into account.
Yes.
Probably a little bit line ball. From the customer's point of view, pretty similar to overprint, so there's no great issue. As I say, if they need something longer term, that's when we go into the synthetics, and that could go on, products that have to last beyond months, could be years,
Yes.
And then there's a whole range of different synthetics that come into it, for from less expensive grades through to very expensive grades that literally, you mentioned when we were talking earlier about asset management and things like that.
Yeah.
Very, very durable, can literally last years.
On something like a synthetic, if you're looking at something that's so you're saying that there's more of a basic synthetic style stock compared to the more expensive ones. For general purpose, people that want to put, say, product labels, or even mum and pop doing their soup kitchen, putting a synthetic label on a piece of food product that give nutritional information, ingredients information, whatever it is. Do you feel that the general synthetics are still, I mean, I grew up with the fact that we couldn't tear these things.
And that's where the durability comes in. If they're not exposed, for example, to weather conditions, whether it's sun or rain or anything like that, if they're going on a product that's effectively kept inside, we deal a lot, for example, in the plastics industry. So people making plastic tubs, so they don't want to put a paper label on there because it probably cheapens the product a little bit. The synthetic just has a better finish, tends to be a glossier sort of higher end. It's going on a product that might retail for $20 or more. So they want it to look good, and also their plastic product's going to last a long period of time. And if people leave the label stuck to it, they want it to look good over a period of time. Those sort of synthetics, though, you're not going to be able to put outdoors and expect that they're going to last a long time.
I mean, I think I've sold a synthetic to a client years ago where it was a matte synthetic label where they wanted to print on it, but they wanted to be able to write with pen. And so they wanted the matte because the gloss, the pen would not stay on there. It would just instantly just come. Whereas with the matte, it just
was a bit more ink receptive as such. That's right.
So there is an advantage to having a matte synthetic, but you're right. Like for the gloss, it has that kind of shiny look to it.
A little bit of a premium feel. Getting back to one particular plastics manufacturer, they make products that are widely sold in places like Bunnings. So they're sitting on the Bunnings warehouse shelves. And they could be sitting there for many months. A paper label might start to look a little bit tatty after a period of time. The synthetics still look great until somebody buys the product.
So like in talking about that, let's throw in a little bit of a thing. Why would people want to get paper labels over in the way of using a ribbon if the cost with Thermal Direct is pretty much the same, and they're both paper in that sense?
Well, thermal direct paper, as I say, can deteriorate much faster. It doesn't like light, for example. It doesn't like heat, for example. So we deal with transport companies, so for parcel tracking and things like that. The labels don't necessarily need to last a long time, but they're being moved through their sort of facilities, through the different courier hands and all that sort of thing. And the thermal direct is going to be exposed to potentially a lot more sort of
environmental factors and
handling,
handling
as well. So all of a sudden it'll start blackening off. So the image that's printed on there, which tends to be people's addresses, can actually start being difficult to read.
So
you go down the path of the thermal transfer paper. It's still a relatively inexpensive option, but the advantage is that you're not going to have it deteriorate just by a bit of exposure to sunlight or heat or whatever. Especially, we now do a lot of 2D barcoding and so forth, for the tracking of parcels and things like that. And they're still readable the way through the process. Thermal Direct potentially could lose its readability, and so it is very much for a short-term specific sort of purpose. As I say, mainly maybe for cartons for manufacturers to move around.
And I must admit, I've never seen as black a print as you get out of a carbon ribbon.
Correct.
That thing is by far darker than any type of Thermal Direct. So
exactly.
It definitely gives. I do see that advantage as well. So so that's good. So label substrates for different industries. We've talked about a couple where I just mentioned mum and pop cafes and stuff like that for synthetics, but chemical resistant, harsh environments, medical. We talked about transport and logistics using Thermal Direct, but when you look at different industries, do you instantly try and say, like if you had a transport company, or not a transport company, if you had a chemical company, do you instantly go, you guys want synthetic and you want this type of synthetic, or
to a large degree, it's generally in the conversation, as I said earlier, it's one of the first questions we've got to ask. What's the application?
Yeah.
What do you want out of this thing?
Yeah.
If they're sticking a label onto a chemical drum, for example, is a few factors. One, obviously, is that often if it's a 44-gallon drum, it's going to sit outside, so therefore you need something durable. But of course, it also depends on what's in the drum. Potential spillage, whether it's when the container's being filled. If it's a large container, it might be decanted over a period of time.
Yep.
So if there's, again, a lot of spillage, a paper label won't stand up.
Yes.
You get the synthetics, and then you've got different grades of synthetic.
Yep.
And the same with ribbon, which you'd be able to talk ad
course.
nauseum about.
Well, I mean,
there's so many different options, which certain ones might print better, but aren't maybe as hard and actually sort of key as well to certain stocks.
Yeah.
So you've got to look at the perfect combination based on the application.
Yes. Okay. One thing, like when you talk about chemical, I don't know how much you've delved into, and this is me sort of showing my little bit of expertise on GHS compliancy. Is that something you've delved a little bit into yourself?
Yeah.
I know from the ribbon side of things, that's definitely you have to have a certain class of resin.
Yes.
You have to have a certain class of label that will stand up, but definitely that the ribbon is definitely, it has to be GHS compliant ribbon.
Yep.
And so from a side of labels, does that even the adhesive, does that make a difference on
Absolutely.
That
sort of thing? So again, every manufacturer of the label stocks have a range of different synthetics, and some of them sort of tick certain boxes. Some don't. Again, it always comes down to cost.
Yes.
When you're getting sort of further up the food chain of more durable and hard-wearing synthetic stocks, often the adhesive is there to complement it. So therefore, they have a range of adhesives, and literally once you get to the top end, which is very high bond strength and things like that, it becomes a cost factor, but it ticks all the boxes to be able to last for the life of the product.
So when we talk about stuff like there's different synthetics, like I've come across like silver mylar. What for people who don't know, what is silver mylar?
Polyester.
So it is just a polyester.
It is a polyester. So again, you've got different types of synthetics. You've got PVC, which is effectively a vinyl. You've got polypropylenes, you've got polyethylenes, which tend not to be as hard wearing. Something like your polyester, which is your mylars, is very hard wearing.
Okay.
Almost impossible to tear, and highly durable where they're exposed to external factors, sun, rain, all those sort of things. And so that is really probably the top end of the tree.
Okay.
We've got a client who are heavily involved in the transport industry, and they have been making these very large stillages, which they supply to clients, and they got to the point they were quite expensive stillages. The client just miraculously was losing them and all this sort of thing. And so, and in discussion with the clients as well, that was a cost to the client if they disappeared and so forth, because it was such a specific thing. So we developed a solution with our client where we used a very, very high-end polyester material, which has a very specific surface coating, which allows the absorption of ink. So, for example, a thermal transfer ribbon literally gets absorbed underneath the surface, the protective coating of the film. It's a polyester, so it's hard wearing, it doesn't shrink, it doesn't stretch, it's quite stable, and can also then handle really extreme conditions. So with these stillages, every so often they might get damaged, or they might just need to be sort of revamped, cleaned up, whatever. It's a combination of plastic and metal, and so they could get damaged or whatever. So our client actually takes them back and refurbishes them, but as part of that process, they're actually putting them through high pressure washers, with detergents and all sorts of things. The label, which is quite a large 100 by 300 millimetre label, has to stay on there because it's specifically numbered, relating to the identification number that's stamped into the stillage, and these things go through hell to get refurbed, and the label survives.
Excellent. And how long have they been doing that for?
It's probably about 18 months.
And everything's so far?
So far, touch wood,
yeah,
going along okay.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I mean, that just shows the, from a label perspective, what you can do out of a thermal printer,
yes,
absolutely. and just the right label and ribbon combination and everything.
Exactly. It's, like I say, it's a top-end material. It's a 3M product. Very, very expensive. But when they're being stuck onto stillages worth a couple of $1,000s, a label that might end up costing them, $3 or $4 is nothing.
No, that sounds really good. I mean, just one last thing with silver mylar, and I'm revisiting that back again. It's silver. Is there any silver in it, or is it just the colouring?
It's just the colouring that they put through it. So it's
Okay.
actually not a silver product.
Yeah.
So mylar, when it's extruded, can come as clear, white, or silver.
Okay.
And the silver can be a range of bright chrome, it can be a matte, it can be a brushed, it can be all sorts of things.
Okay.
So that's just a finishing process in the manufacturing.
And so it's not specifically
because it doesn't have silver pigment for
it.
it.
Yeah, because a lot of people come to me and say, like,
it must be expensive.
It's got silver in it, and it's like, oh, that means it must be better because it's silver. And I'm just like, I'm sure that they don't have to be silver, but
no,
it's just that term of silver mylar, but it should just be renamed just mylar labels.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Pre-printed and overprinting with a thermal printer. So, again, in my previous company, and with doing some work for you as well in the past, like overprinting on supplied stock.
Yep.
How does that weigh up with, like, say somebody comes to you and says, okay, I want so many amount of labels that has blank bit of area where I can put the variable information, versus somebody coming to you saying the exact same amount of labels or whatever it is, I want all my information put on there for this product. Do you find what's cost, and is there a cost? Where does the cost kind of tip to where one becomes more expensive, or one becomes a better option than the other?
I guess there's a few sort of things that I can answer here, and probably first and foremost is that we have a lot of clients who have a common base label design, and then might have 20, 30, 50 products that need a different barcode and a different description. A lot of the time the volumes, individually are quite small. It might be a matter of hundreds, it might be 1,000 or two. To set up and manufacture a multicoloured label for the sake of 500, 1,000 labels is not cost effective.
Yes.
As I say, the base print, which might be the multicolour stuff, the picture or whatever of the product, or the range or whatever, we can do that high volume, cost effective, great finish on the product, and literally leave an area blank for them to just overprint as they go. So they might, for example, in their range, use 50,000 labels a month. But they might spread that over 200 products.
Yes.
And so therefore we turn around and say, okay, rather than locking them in and saying, okay, you need to, X number of thousands of every product, and they've got to carry an inventory of 500,000 labels, we turn around and say, okay, well, we'll run you your 50 or 100,000 base labels. You just tell us as you need it, and we'll be able to overprint it. Or alternatively, we set them up with a printer themselves. We support them with all of that, and then they can just literally print them as they need them. One of the big things that I think most companies don't like to do nowadays is carry more inventory than they need. And if they've got a huge range of products, then they can get caught up with, carrying far too much.
I've seen that in the past. I've been out to clients in the past who they have a level of their products where they do overprint. But then they have, a shelf full of just different ones where they've gotten the label manufacturer to create individual ones, and I'm like, why didn't you do it for these ones?
Exactly, that's right.
And it's just like, management just wanted to have those, pre-done, and you just like, you realise from cost perspective, it is cheaper to just get the base label done and overprint the variable information. So,
and certainly, from our manufacturing point of view, we've got high-speed presses. Therefore, there's setup involved for every job. But once it's set up and the press starts running, we can be running it 100 metres a minute.
Yeah.
So we're churning out an awful lot of labels in a relatively sort of short space of time. The cost reflects it.
Yeah.
You know, again, if we turn around and just sort of, you know, run what the client needs, that, you know, for that week or that month, based on the various different items, and we've got to turn around and set up for 1,000 labels, 2,000 labels, it's not cost effective. We can run, for example, 50,000 labels, and they might cost 10 cents each.
Yep.
As a blank or, you know, a base label which they can then overprint. The overprint might cost them then 10 cents each.
Yep.
It's costing them 20 cents. If we turned around and just ran 1,000 labels,
yep,
it's going to cost them probably $1 each. You
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So it comes down to how best to help them manage what they need.
Where does the amount, in way of, like, you know, where do you have sort of an amount that you know roughly? I mean, it also probably depends on the size of the label.
Yeah.
I mean,
lots of variables.
Yeah.
As a rule of thumb, you'd turn around and say if somebody was getting less than, say, 5,000 labels,
yeah,
it's probably worth them looking at an overprint scenario.
Yes.
You know, at the moment, to a large degree, overprinting is fairly limited. Tends to basically just be black, and that's about it.
Yes.
You know, obviously there's technologies there, and there's also technologies coming which will allow people to do more multicoloured, you know, overprinting. But there's a cost associated with it still.
Yes.
You know, and again, it comes down to what suits their needs.
Yeah. I mean, you find that, you know, ink pigment machines, you know, you get 4-colour ink machines these days, and you could print the entire label, but the cost of inks are
horrendous.
Are astronomical. Right. But then the label substrates themselves are more expensive. Correct. Because they are a specialised stock,
coatings and all that sort of thing
to accept it. Yeah. So, you know, definitely to me, thermal transfer has always been even though it is single colour. I mean, look, I've run chemical labels where, like, you know, the GHS, the red diamond. So you run the red diamond first, wind them back in, and then run the black over the top. I've done that before. And I've shown clients how to do that, and I've also shown clients how to run one machine in front of the other and lead the label out of one machine and into the other, and save yourself a lot of money and technically get a 2-colour machine. And write this. You know, I've got a program that does all the stuff for you. But not everybody's going to be doing that.
No, exactly.
But, you know, for 4-colour process, definitely, you know, if you're doing very small runs and doing the whole colour yourself, but, you know, then that...
But again, there's a cost thing. You know,
there's a cost involved in doing your own.
You know, sort of, I don't know, a tray of donuts or something like that, and you're selling them for $3. You can't turn around and spend 50 cents on a label, which your printer might end up costing you to produce that label, plus you've got the expense, the capital outlay to buy the thing in the first place. Yes. So again, it's just horses for courses.
Again, when we rewind back, thermal transfer printing can be a cost saving because very effective because you can put use by dates, you can variable information, nutritional information, the type of product, and keep that base label, and it keeps the cost to a low. So so just sort of, you know, rounding out a little bit of what we've been talking about today, I just want to sort of go on just one sort of last thing. You know, what do you see now in the future for labels? We can always see, you know, that you know, there's always new technologies, always new things. You know, do you keep abreast of a lot of the new stuff, or?
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
You know, as far as where markets and so forth go, probably the biggest thing that is identifiable at the moment. I mean, obviously there's different processes and things like that to create different finishes, and we understand all of that. Yes. But I think one of the biggest challenges for companies is inventory management, and they just don't want to be carrying more than they have to. Yes. As a result, if a company can turn around and say, okay, we set up a process where we can just do our variable data as we need to, then we're reducing our commitment, we're reducing what we've got sitting on the shelf, potentially as dead money. If products change, you know, we deal in a lot of the food packaging and so forth, there might be nutritional information, and all of a sudden one little ingredient changes, and if the client's committed to having 50 or 100,000 pre-printed labels there, what do they do with them? Yes. Whereas if they just almost print them as needed, it's a much better solution. You know, that's again why, you know, certain clients of ours will they still want a good quality multicoloured label that looks $1 million?
Yeah.
But they want to have that sort of, I guess, ability to just, only print as they need to finish the product. Again, if they've got a lot of products and so forth, it's just a much easier scenario.
Yeah.
Other clients of ours, they make the same thing and it never changes, and they just keep on ordering, and you can just keep printing. And our conventional methods of printing are fantastic.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of clients, as I say, who they want to be a bit dynamic as well. They want to be able to change as they see fit. It might be that they make a particular product and all of a sudden they want to be able to introduce a different colour or a slight variation to it. And it might be that they do it as a trial. Well, all of a sudden they've got a thermal printer. They can just turn around and say, yep, bang, there it is. We run off a few hundred labels or something like that, and it covers our trial.
One of the things that I've come across, I had a client once, and they were a food production company, and they wanted everything to be eco-friendly and all that sort of stuff. And this is, a lot of people want to be eco-friendly, and everything needs to be recyclable on certain packaging these days. So, for a plastic bottle, plastic labels, all that sort of stuff, paper product, paper label, that sort of thing. So you don't have to sit there and try and separate things. I've been through that with some supplies into Woolworths and stuff these days, where Woolworths is just going, Coles are going really 100% recyclable, and so for things that are plastic bags needs to have plastic tags and plastic this and that, or paper bags, paper tags, all that sort of stuff. All right, but this food manufacturing company, they went down the path of having high biodegradable stone style labels and stuff like that. And do you come across a lot of that sort of unique, like people going, what's something really edgy that we can put on our product that would look really new age and fancy and awesome? They're a bitch to produce.
Exactly. Well, we have even a recent one where the client wanted to literally have a dissolvable label. So it goes on a product that's then obviously able to be reused, and as it's so the label's there to sell the product. After it gets washed the first time, the label's gone, leaves no footprint effectively. And they loved the idea. It was fantastic until they saw the price. That's always an issue when you
people love that idea of wanting to be innovative, but
you
don't want to pay the price on being the first ones to the market.
That's right, exactly. Because there's always a cost in technology, understandably. So, and everything's volume related. That's why paper used to be substantially cheaper than synthetics, than the basic synthetics. All of a sudden now that difference is a lot less. It's still, synthetics are more expensive, but it's not like it used to be.
No.
It used to be double, triple the price,
I mean, we even see the same with the carbon ribbons to produce the printed label. Like, carbon ribbons aren't as expensive as they used to be in comparison. Yes, you could be paying twice the price, but the cost of ribbons have come down substantially over the years. Do you find that, RFID is one of those things that I'll just throw that in there. That's a technology that's, the cost of producing RFID labels is still fairly high priced.
Because they're not easy to do.
No. And once technology becomes more and more in, it'll become cheaper, of course, and, we'll probably be talking in 10 years' time and going,
It's almost a non-issue.
Non-issue, So, but have you come across a situation, I want to throw something a little bit more of a devil's advocate in it. Have you come across a situation where somebody's like, oh, we want to do this, and you've gone to do proof of concept, and I wouldn't say failed miserably, but it's just the customer's sort of, you've spent all this money into it, and they've gone, no, it's not what we want to do.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. You go through, and do a lot of research and come up with some new ideas and so forth, and maybe there's one little box in their grouping that's not ticked, and they walk away from it, and that's life, you just deal with it. But funnily enough, if you do put that effort in, put the work in, there's going to be another situation where it comes up that you can use it, and so you've got to be open-minded about it.
Okay, so excellent. Well, I think we're going to leave it on that note. So there is plenty in the future for labelling, and plenty of new innovative ideas. If you've got any idea on what you want to get, you can always talk to David at GK Labels. So how can people contact you, David?
So probably the best thing would be to email us, and the email address would be sales@gklabels.com.au.
Excellent. And my name is Rod Bolt. I'm at Toshiba. You can always talk to me, and I can give you David's details as well. But thank you so much for sitting with me today and
Pleasure, Rob.
talking with me today.
30 years, it's good to be able to keep things up.
Excellent. Yes, very much so. And hope everybody is well informed today on labeling substrates, and the future of labels. Okay, my name is Rod Bolt, and everybody take it easy.